go live on YouTube and Facebook at the same time.
Oh, that's
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. We are late, and I apologize for that. Technology just wasn't letting me be great today. But I'm so glad for those who watched our stream yesterday. Really glad that you were here, and I'm looking forward to spending the rest of the time with you. I'm just checking the stream just to make sure everything is running smoothly and that we are indeed live. Oh yes, we are indeed live. Time with you. I'm just great checking stuff. And somebody's here. I can see that you're here. If you have any comments, please put them in the chat section. Really happy that you're here. So my name is Joanna Daniel, for those who are new to this channel. And today I'm going to talk to Alison. And Alison is a qualified therapist, and she's also an author. I'm looking forward to read Alison's book. I haven't done it yet, but it's on my list of books to read. And we know that Alison graciously agreed to be on here with me several times throughout the rest of this month and the quarter, where we're going to just give you tools and tips to help you to deal with the stuff that comes with this lockdown. Again, we're back into a lockdown. You know, Alison, I was talking to somebody yesterday and they said it's like being underwater and you can't breathe. And I can understand that kind of feeling, you know. So I'm really glad that you've given up your time to come and talk to us about how to manage those moods when they come, because they are. And another thing I heard, Alison, is that people are being dismissive of how they feel. Like, I shouldn't feel like that. You know, reason now how you feel, as opposed to acknowledging that this is how I feel and this is what I can do about it. So here we're all about feeling what you're feeling and giving you tools to deal with how you feel. So Alison, just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then you can go into what you're going to talk to us about today.
Okay. I'm a counselor and psychotherapist, and work with people across all age groups and with various presentations. So with mild mental health problems, moderate problems, and sometimes severe mental health problems as well. I'm an author as well, and I'm very passionate about the subject of relationships. So that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you, Alison. So, you know that what I said about dealing with low moods. What if somebody they're having persistent low moods? What are some of the things that they can do, and how might it present? Not, you know, so you can feel low, and there are different things that might make us feel low. Some people don't understand what's happening, and so they're dismissive of it, like, I shouldn't feel like this. They're reasoning it out. What are some of the things that they can do, as opposed to reasoning out how they feel, so that they can help themselves, so that next time the low moods come, they know what to do?
Okay, so the various degrees of low mood. We all have days when we feel low, and we all have days when things just don't seem to be going right, and we don't feel on top of the world like we would normally do, and that's normal for everybody. So it's about understanding yourself first of all, and understanding when the low moods become a problem. So if people have low moods that are persistent over a period of at least 2 weeks, that becomes a problem. Then it means that they're not motivated to do things, to live life like they would normally live, to socialize with people. And for some people, it becomes a situation where they can't even get out of bed to do their normal day-to-day things. You might be surprised to learn that for some people, it gets so bad they can't even get out of bed to have a shower, do personal care for themselves. And so, it's important to start to notice when you are experiencing low mood that's excessive. That's not the normal, well, I'm having a bad day. And if the low mood is persistent over a period of days, then it's advisable to start trying to do things like perhaps going out for a walk, doing some exercise, watching your sleep pattern. So how many hours of sleep do you get? Are you sleeping too much, or are you sleeping too little? Watching your diet as well, because what we eat has a huge impact on how we feel. So just little things, like also perhaps maybe finding somebody that you can talk to, because most of the time when we experience low mood, it's because There are certain emotions within us that we grapple with. We haven't processed, or we don't understand, and perhaps maybe just talking to somebody about it will help us to process those emotions. Other things that can be done are perhaps thinking about things that you would normally enjoy doing if your mood wasn't low. So, what your hobbies are, what your interests are. Is it singing, for example? Is it cooking, for example? Is it sewing? So all
Mm,
of those activities that you'd normally do for pleasure, perhaps engage in some of those activities. But
mm.
obviously, if it's starting to become a problem where you can't even get yourself to motivated, and it goes on up to a period of 2 weeks, then please see your GP.
Right. So thank you, Alison. That's really good. So there are things that you can do now if when you've noticed the low moods, as opposed to ignore it and tell yourself you shouldn't feel it. Some things that you can do, as Alison is saying, go for walks, exercise. And I always say to people, when we say exercise, you don't have to join a gym or do a 50-minute exercise on YouTube. I like short bursts of exercise because I don't like to look on the clock and see that I have 10 minutes to go. So there are some 4-minute ones that really is good, that get your heart rate up, that get your body relaxed, that get you, feeling really good. You can do one of those, 4 minutes,
Mhm.
2 minutes, do some jumping jacks in your house on your own. So exercise, and Alison saying, check your sleep pattern. Sleep is really important in terms of helping us to feel better and to balance moods. And what are you eating? What are the things? I know one of the thing is some people comfort eat, and it's okay to kind of own that. When I am feeling low, I go for sugar and carbs. Those are the satisfying foods that
Mm,
we tend to go for. But those are the things that don't help when you're experiencing low moods.
mhm, mhm.
So it's kind of counterproductive. And Alison is saying someone to talk to. And that's one of the things I wanted to ask about next, Alison. Someone to talk to. What are some of the things that people can do to support those people? The friend that is having low moods and keep calling you. How can people support and hear them without them shutting down? Or yeah, let me ask that first before I ask the next part of the question. What are the things that they can do to support?
Okay, that's a very important question. I think what tends to happen is that most of the time, when somebody that we care for, a loved one, contacts us and says, "Well, I'm going through a very difficult experience," we want to help, right? We want to
Yes.
fix it for them, and sometimes, that does sometimes help. If the person's looking for direct advice, that helps. But a lot of the time, when people are quite low, they just need to sort of make sense of how they're feeling, and
Mm-hmm.
they just need somebody to talk to, somebody to listen. And
Mm-hmm.
it's very important that if you're the person who they reach out to, that you just listen. You just
Yeah.
listen without offering your own opinions about how you would have gone about it. Because
Mm-hmm.
already, when somebody's feeling quite low, their whole perception of the world or of life in that moment in time is that everything is negative. Now,
Yeah.
if you try to offer, what you would have done or what you think they should be doing, what you're saying to them is that they're not doing the right thing. So that
Right.
instead of taking that as help, they take
Mm-hmm.
that as criticism,
Mm,
which can be more detrimental. So it's very important that we just listen to the person, that we don't judge them, and that we empathize with them. So, in other words, put ourselves in their shoes. Forget
yes.
about what we would do for a minute, forget about our own lives and our own approach to fix it, and just travel that journey that the person is with
Mm,
them in
mm,
that time without necessarily offering too much by way of advice.
mm.
So that's
That's
really
so
important.
important because people are afraid to listen or hear it because they feel like something is going to be required of me that I can't give. I don't have anything to give, so I'm afraid to listen. And what you're saying is all nothing's required of you. You just need to listen. You just need to They just want somebody to talk to not give an opinion, to not tell them how they would deal with it, but just to hear them.
Mhm.
Um, and that is such a beautiful gift, to just hear somebody without saying, do this, do this, do this, do this. So you don't have to fix it. So you don't have to worry about that. That's so, so important. Listening without offering an opinion.
Being
Uh,
there, being there is actually doing something for them.
Absolutely.
Just being present with them is doing something.
Being present with somebody is doing something. Just sit alongside,
Mm.
and just be there. It's such a satisfying thing when you know that somebody is with you, and you don't have to explain yourself. You can just be where you are,
Hmm.
and know that the next person is right there beside you. They're not going anywhere. It's
Yeah.
such a satisfying thing. I also know, Alison, that not everybody can do that or feel like they have the capacity to do that. And it's not about fixing, it's about, um, do I want to do this? And I
Hmm.
think that's really important and honest if you know that you are not the right person to do that. So then it might be that you would, when you feel like you're in that space, don't give, because sometimes the people in that place can be rejecting, and the next person who has is having low moods can feel a sense of abandonment, sense of
Hmm.
rejection, because they're giving up, they don't want to be there, but they're not saying it, and they're doing it in so many other ways that the message is still coming through. So
Hmm.
if you know you can't, it probably is honest to say, I know it sounds like you need somebody, but I can't do it. That's really honest, and that's a really good friendly thing to do, to say,
Hmm.
I can't be the person that you need. So I think you should find somebody else, or call your GP, or
Hmm.
something like that.
Yeah, yeah, of course, because sometimes the what people are presenting can be way be above the other person who is listening, and
Yeah.
we can't give what we don't have. If
No.
we don't have the ability to be there, we can't give them that
Yeah.
space and that presence.
Yeah. Yeah. And somebody said it's useful to ask the person why they're feeling low, or should you just try and cheer them up or leave them?
I think you should just listen.
Yeah.
The why question, you would know this, Joanna. We tend to try not to use why question in therapy a lot because
Why are you feeling low?
it's a bit like it could come across as interrogative if we say why, almost like you shouldn't be. So I think sometimes wait for the cue from the person who is asking, or who needs to talk to ask you the question, to say, well, what do you think about this, what would you do, and then answer the question. But I think sometimes it's very important that we learn to listen.
Mm-hmm.
We learn to listen, and I know that sometimes it's difficult for some people. I know that silence is not something that a lot of people are used to, but silence is actually very effective,
Yeah.
because in that time that the person is telling you what they're telling you, even
Mm-hmm.
if they go quiet for a few minutes, that time in which they're quiet, they're actually processing, something's happening within them, in them,
Mm-hmm.
that actually processing. So you might sit there and feel uncomfortable and think, oh goodness, I need to fill in this space with something. But it's very important that you just give them the space and take the cue from them in terms of what next to say or what next to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, silence is golden, as I grew up hearing, and it is beautiful, but it's something that I had to learn how to do, because that space is so it can be uncomfortable. Not anymore,
Yeah,
because I learned how to sit with it. But before, it's like, should I say something? What should I say? And you don't have to say anything. Just that a listener is saying, that space when the person is not talking is it's a beautiful time, because they're processing, something is going on inside them.
yeah.
Um, Also, the other part of the question was cheer them up. Should they cheer them up if somebody's low and you're supporting them? Should you do something to cheer them up, or just leave them?
Well, that's quite subjective. It just depends on who the person is, what they're going through. If you know them well enough to know how to cheer them up, if they want to be cheered up, some people might not be ready to be cheered up in that time. So,
Yeah.
like I said, take the cue from the person who needs you. Take the cue from them. If you're not sure, ask them, would you like to do
Mm.
some cooking
Mm-hmm.
together?
Mm,
Would you like for us to go out for a walk together? Um,
mm-hmm.
they might well say yes, please. That would be wonderful. Or they might say no, I just want to sit here. So
Yeah.
it's about perhaps maybe just putting our own ideas to one side and
Yeah.
really being totally present with the
Yeah.
other person. And I know that's hard work, but with practice, we can do it.
Yes, yes. So not I know that I don't necessarily need cheering up. If I'm feeling a certain kind of way, I'd love to go for a walk though. That would cheer me up. Just let's
Mm,
go for a walk and let me breathe and let me relax, and that helps. So
yeah.
as Alice would say, take your cue from the person. What do they want to do? And as you get to know them more, you'll get to know what they like and what they don't like, and that's a cue of some of the things that you can do. I wanted to also now go back to the person who is experiencing the low mood, because sometimes one of the things I hear is, I don't want to burden people.
Hmm.
And so I didn't say anything. So sometimes people sit on their own and struggle for long on their own because they feel like if I share it with Joanna, I'm burdening you. And
Hmm.
I say to people, you're not burdening me. If I answer the phone, I'm not busy. I can talk.
Hmm.
Just call me. Just send me a
Absolutely.
message. When I answer, it's okay. I can talk. You don't need to explain or find an excuse. You don't need to do anything. As long as I answer you, I'm here. I'm present. Okay. But I know that some people feel like they're being a burden, and I know that's their own internal stuff going on. What can they tell themselves other than that? Like, you need support. It's okay to have support. Don't
Hmm.
reason it out. Call somebody.
Hmm. Absolutely, just that. What we tell ourselves is very important. So if in that time when you feel quite low, watch what you're telling yourself, watch your self-talk, because your self-talk can either get you out of that cycle of feeling low, and feeling sad, or your self-talk can actually maintain the cycle, keep you in a place, because it comes from how you're thinking. What you're
Mm,
thinking will determine how you feel. So if you're
mhm,
thinking, oh, I'm no good at this and I'm rubbish at that, you're going to feel obviously low. You're going to feel disappointed with yourself. You're going to feel frustrated. And that's
mhm.
going to make you want to just not socialize, for example, because you don't think much about yourself. And when you don't, it goes back to, well, because you're isolating yourself, for example, you end up thinking, well, nobody wants to talk to me, which makes you
Yeah,
feel bad, which makes you want to avoid people even more. So
true.
that's a cycle that can maintain itself. So it's very important to pay attention to what we're thinking in those moments in time and what we're telling ourselves. And
Mm,
ask yourself, just because you're thinking something doesn't mean what you're thinking is
it's
fact or
true.
what you're
That's
thinking
true.
is true.
Mm,
So
mhm,
challenge the thoughts that you
mm,
have and ask
mm,
yourself, well, this thought that I have about myself, which is so negative, is there any evidence for it? Is there any evidence that if I go and talk to this person, I'm going to bother them? And if there's no evidence for it, then there's only one way to find out, which is try
mm.
and talk to them.
Test it, test it, test it. Just call them.
Absolutely.
So Alison said that sometimes we have a thought and we give a meaning to that thought, and we tell ourselves a whole story around that thought. And we tell ourselves a story around the person that we want to lean on and we want to call and we want to get support from. None of which oftentimes is true, but we believe that story and it stops us from reaching out to someone and getting help. And
Mhm,
we're saying, don't reason it out, just reach out, because they might be waiting to support you.
mhm,
um, One other thing that you can do, if there are people in your life who might not quite know how to support you, trying to figure out what you want and ask them. You know how one of the questions was, should we cheer them up, or should we do this? Tell them what you need. Like, I am feeling low and I would like to, this is what I want from you.
mhm,
And people might really appreciate that, because if they
mhm,
don't know what to do, if you tell them what you need, that might really help the process. I'm feeling this way and this is what I would like, so
mhm,
that they can know that when you're feeling low, okay, my sister, my brother, my friend she looks like she's not answering her text messages, she's not answering her phone calls, she's not returning them. Might be a period of low mood. This is what she tells me that she needs in those periods.
Mhm.
Really helpful for us to be able to do that, have that kind of communication with others so that they can help us. There's another comment here from Alison says, listening and keeping silent might be easier for the trained person. But what about the family member who just wants to see their loved one happy? It's a really, really good question. I didn't find it easy to be silent because I was uncomfortable. So the silence is not about what the next person, it's about you. So if you're a family member struggling with that, just know that you are uncomfortable with silence. And maybe that's a good thing to listen to what's going on inside you when the next person is sitting across from you, you're sitting in the couch together or in the car, you're going for a walk and there's silence. What are your thoughts? What's happening for you? What are you saying? What's your internal dialogue? What's going on? How are you feeling in your body? What's the discomfort? Listen to that for you because that's about you.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, it's going to take a while to learn how to sit still and be silent with somebody else. But in this crisis that we're living in, we're learning how to cope and to be there for each other. So it's really important to learn it. But one of the trap we fall in, Alison, I don't know if you would hear this, is we want to fix it.
Mm. And I hear that. I hear that question very loud and clear. And everything you've said, Joanna, is absolutely spot on. If we are thinking about we want to fix it, I guess the question we should ask is, who do we want to fix it for? Do we want to fix it for ourselves or for the other person? Because it makes a huge difference. Once we put the other person as the focus, then it's not going to be, well, I just want to fix it because I want to see them happy. It's going to be more like, what do they need? What's
Mhm.
their need to be happy? And what their need is and what I want to do to achieve that happiness might be two different things.
Mhm.
So it's very important to be able to distinguish who we want to fix things for. Is it because we're uncomfortable with the situation of seeing them unhappy that we want to fix our own discomfort, or we want to fix the issues that they are experiencing for
Yeah.
them? So again, I know that we are trained and I know that not everyone's trained, but hey, that's why we're having this conversation to
Yeah.
offer some of that knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really, really good question, though. And also, they just want to see their loved one happy. And yeah, that's true. We want to see them happy and smiling, but we want to, what the happiness is important, but what's most important is understanding
Mhm.
why they are the way they are, why they're low. Because sometimes we find it so difficult to talk about emotions, that we will skirt over it. So sometimes wanting to see your loved one happy for some people might be, I don't want to acknowledge that you struggle with persistent low mood. Or I don't want to acknowledge that you have depression. I don't
Mhm.
want to acknowledge that that's anxiety. I don't want to acknowledge that the trauma that you experience is causing this. So I just want to see you happy. So lots of people might be forced into this role of pretense. Let me pretend that I'm happy and I'm okay and nothing's wrong, because my family member, my mom, my dad, the people around me are uncomfortable when I'm in a low place. So let me pretend that I'm
Yeah.
okay and I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, if we think about like a parent, like a mother, we all see children cry, and sometimes a child needs to cry because they need to express their frustration, their anger, their sadness, but we
Yeah.
don't want to see them cry. And sometimes the question is, what's that about? Is it
Mm-hmm.
about the guilt we feel because it makes us feel inadequate as parents, or is
Mm-hmm.
it because we don't want them to express what they're feeling? And
Yeah.
those are two different things. Um, Again, sometimes when somebody loses a loved one, when somebody dies, and we go to see them, and we tell them, don't cry, it's okay, uh, the thing is, they need to cry because they need to grieve. And
Mm-hmm.
so what's that about? Not wanting them to cry. And sometimes we try to shut them down by giving them a hug and stopping them from crying. But
Mm-hmm.
actually, when people are grieving, the need to cry, because it's a way of expressing their grief, and that's important. So it's
Yeah.
very important that we pay attention to who we're serving in that moment in time. And yes, sometimes we have the very best intentions, but just because I turn up in my living room and I want to give my husband a kiss and I want to spend time with him because I love him, doesn't mean in that moment in time he wants me to spend that time with him. So it's very important to be able to empathize with people, understand where they are, what they're experiencing, what they need in that moment in time. And if we really want to help them, that's what we need to pay attention to.
Yeah. A really good comment from the question about being silent that says, if I keep silent, will they not feel that I'm not caring enough?
Well, it depends on who you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And some of these things as well can be cultural.
Yeah.
So we need to understand who we're dealing with, but we also need to understand that sometimes I think we talk too much, and we actually need to listen. We need to listen. And when we're listening, we're also listening sometimes to what a person is not saying. We're listening to their body language. We're listening, to their non-verbal communications. And, we can give a pause, we can give a period of time without speaking, without constantly having to use words to communicate.
Yeah.
So it's finding the right balance, and I
Yeah.
think the point is really it's really to make a point that
Yeah.
there is space for silence, especially when people are low. When
Yeah.
people are low, when people are feeling a bit depressed,
Mm.
silence can be very effective.
So there are two types, I feel like, Betty asked the question, and I think there's a silence that might communicate lack of care, and there's a silence that is comforting and healing and nurturing. So the silence that might communicate lack of care is the silence when I know something is wrong and I'm ignoring it and I'm not asking you, are you okay? And I'm not trying to pursue you or to be there for you. I'm just ignoring it. So that silence might communicate lack of care. But the silence when when you and I are in communication, when we've been talking and we've come to this natural stop in the conversation, that silence don't communicate lack of care. That silence says, I'm here still. That's a healing silence. So that's the difference between the two silences, I think. Which is because I wrote about silence and how silence can be damaging and harmful, because we know the person is struggling, we know something is wrong, and we say nothing, we ignore it and pretend, you know, and we're pretending. That silence is harmful. But the other one, as I say, is healing, because you're in contact, you're communicating, you're talking, and it just comes to this natural place where you're both just sitting there in that moment. That's a healing silence. I hope that makes sense, Betty. And those are really good questions, Roxanne. Thank you for them. Because you're right, we just want to see people happy, but also if we know why they're not, and I know that that's probably what you wanted to draw out when you asked that question too. If we know why they're not, that is even more crucial and even more important. um Thank you guys so much for your questions. Thank you again, Alison, for coming. I know we could be here for the rest of the hour or longer talking about this, but we're going to be here for the rest of the quarter. We're here until the end of December, every day at 1. And I'm going to talk to an organization around how do we parent in this crisis. What are some of the things that we can do with our young people, because they have thoughts, they have feelings, things are going on with them, they're struggling, and they need to be able to they need us to be able to be there for them. And also, I'm interviewing a male on the 29th, which is Thursday. So please, you know how our men don't talk, but let them know about this. Let your teenage sons know about this, because it's going to be a really important conversation, for them to come and to be a part of, and to listen and to ask questions if they have any. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome, Betty. So we're going to talk about marriage and the relationships that are feeling pressured during this time. There are loss of employment that is happening, and people are struggling. People are just struggling, and we can't pretend that it's not happening. It's happening, and we want to be able to be a part of that solution, and to let you know that we're here for you and with you. If you have any questions or any topics that you'd like us to go into, please email me at info@joannasdaniel.com, info@joannasdaniel.com, and we'll be happy to deal with those topics throughout the rest of the quarter. We are covered for up until I think mid-November. We'll be happy to fit those things in if there's anything especially that you want us to do. On Friday, we're going to be here with exercise, talking about some of the things that you can do to help your body keep relaxed and to help you, stay focused and well throughout this period. Alison, where can people find you if they need to contact you about your services?
If you just type my name, Alison Awuku, Awuku, just Google me. On the counseling directory. You'll find my website on Google. So if you just Google my name, you'll find information about me.
Okay, great stuff. Thank you again, everybody, for coming. And remember, if you have any questions or anything, email info@joannasdaniel.com. I'm also going to put details below this video. We have an ebook that we're giving away throughout this time, and I'm going to put the link below later on today that you can access that. Some things that you can do to manage your well-being over this period as well. Thank you so much, everyone, and take really good care. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.